It's April 1st, and no April Fools in the market. The market certainly has done very well for 3 weeks now. But this is the weekend webinar, and let's take a look at the action of the last week or so. In particular, take a look at the S&P, which is up 4 of the 5 days, and the last 6 out of 7, and from 39.09 to 41.10, and we're talking 300 points and about 100 points a week for the last 3 weeks. And you can see lateral price resistance seems to have been closed above. The next target would be around 42 and then 43.50 or thereabout. NASDAQ 100, I think looks even better. Take a look at the chart, you'll see a base, a breakout, a nice retest, creation of a trend line, reversal bottom, and from this low at just about 11.7 to just about 13.2, 1,500 points in 3 weeks, about 500 points a week versus 100 points a week for the S&P. But the last 3 weeks obviously have been technically stellar, and so much for the banking crisis. At least the market continues to climb a wall of worry, like I've been saying. Your next target, the juxtaposition of the channel top and the lateral price resistance from the May and August highs, brings you to about 13.7-ish. The high was 13.720 back in August, so that would be a target. About 500 more points. We'll see if we can get there. But interesting on Friday that the transportation index did even better. Was up 2.2%. Now it hasn't quite taken out the declining top side. We're almost there. There's also lateral price resistance and moving average resistance. So we need to get about 14.8 for the trending to really make additional upside headway towards 15.3 and 15.9. IWM also had a good day Friday. It spiked 2.2% as well. It got right up to the resistance. So these two indices are right at a lateral price resistance. And IWM, small cap index, has a long way to go to get up through the moving averages, which is going to be up around 184.5. That's about 5.5 points, 3%. We'll see what happens. The bottom line is they've V-bottomed off support and moved up dramatically on both indices. As you can see, a nice movement up every day for the last 6 days in the transportation index. So a really nice rally. Technicals were good. The underlying technicals were very good. The McClellan oscillator went quickly overbought. And when you get there that quickly, I want to point out that in October, when the market got up there, the oscillator came down. There, market pulled back for a couple of days and then just kept going. And as a matter of fact, over the next 3-4 months, was substantially higher. So what I'm getting at is I believe that the oscillator is more of a thrust to the upside that triggers a new intermediate uptrend. At least that's what it appears to be. But yeah, it's overbought, and we should see that back and filler come down just because, again, advanced declines and up-down volume is what the oscillator is comprised of. And in the beginning of every major thrust to the upside, at the beginning of an intermediate or even a short-term trend, you get a big thrust in the technicals, advanced declines and up-down volume, 5, 8, 10, 12 to 1 or more. And then it'll settle down into more of a 2 or 3 to 1 or even 1.5 to 1, 2 to 1 type advanced declines on a normal basis. And that means the oscillator then comes down like it did here, 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 and almost every time it got up in that range, oscillator pulled back, even though the market kept trending or at least consolidating. The VIX, dramatic pop and drop down from 31 back to 18 and change, and it's near the lower end of the range for the last year. Kind of interesting. Not apathetic yet. That would be down towards low teens, but certainly not anything to worry about at this point. Not yet. Also, not obviously it's not the opportunity you had up here when it was 31 or even in the mid 30s. It's been a long time since the oscillator was way up here. That was in 2020 when the market got devastated. Okay, we're going to move on to some of the components of the market that are really looking much better. Take a look at Apple. How about this long run up from the January low? It got to 124.17 and Friday hit 165. My target was 164.5 right here because of the snapback high from September. It was above that, and now augurs well for more upside. Perhaps to test this declining top line. Comes in about 168 and then 171. A lot of resistance up here, but boy, what a move off the low, leading the market higher. Amazon is recovering. Not overly impressed. Matter of fact, the long-term downtrend line is still in this range. So it has work to do. I'd like to see Amazon get up above the 105 range. I would really break it out. But Amazon looking better as it got a V bottom with the platform. Moving averages crossed over. We're starting moving up, and now you can see this is at the highest level on Amazon since February the 6th. So we got about a 7-week high on Amazon. What about Google? Well, it was forming a nice base and still has. Take a look at the 1, 2, 3, 4 Tesla rising bottoms line. But a nice base overall. And what Google really needs to do is get over 106 or 108, 65 range, and then you're looking at 12, 17, and 24 potentially. But it was a nice pop on Friday off of moving average and pullback support here. See that right in that zone. This is what I consider key if we can hold it. And there's your resistance zone coming up on Google near 107 and 108.5. But a nice base has been built, can support a nice move. That's very constructive for the market. Checking on Microsoft. Microsoft looked better than most of them as it's already broken its declining tops line. Retested in a 3-wave corrective. Notice it held near the moving average twice, particularly this day when it reversed on a nominal new low, 245.73, and within 4 days it was 283, about 38 points, or 15%. Then a wedge formed and it broke out. And there's been gaps for 2 days in a row. And then Friday it popped another 431. It's at the top of this line and just beneath the double top resistance. So this is a tough area to get to, but if Microsoft takes out 293.5, I'm looking for 310 of 12 range up there. Wouldn't that be nice? Microsoft very constructive. Well, Netflix, which had been great all year and then pulled back, has come on nicely. Take a look. Now this pullback went right to the trend line as I drew it connecting these lows at parallel line. Popped, retested, and this was the key day right there. When it went from a close of 293, it finished the next day at 320, 27-point pop. Then it followed through, resistance right there, pulled back for a day, broke through. I'm really pleased with the way this is looking. If we can get right through here, we're probably headed back to 375.80. If you think that's good, Meta is as strong as anything right now on the NASDAQ 100 general. So let's look at this chart. 88, November 3rd. Today, 212. Monster move. And you can see how even with this pullback falling wedge here that tested the moving averages, it held, creating a new trend line. And this thing doesn't look like it's going to stop very soon, anytime soon. 235.45 would be the target zone if this continues, and it's pretty impressive. What about NVIDIA? I mean, it's good. I think NVIDIA is as good as META. It moved from the October low, which saw it get down to 106.7, and here it is at 278. Amazing move for NVIDIA. And there is some resistance up here that's going to test coming up about 289. 11 points from here, though. And so you can see that between NVIDIA and Meta alone, Netflix isn't no slouch. Microsoft, beautiful base and coming out of it. Google is forming a beautiful base, and Amazon as well. And Apple trending. We have some pretty good stuff going on. Let's also take a look at Tesla. And you can see the big V bottom, large run up, retested the moving averages, lateral price support across here. A wonderful pop, and then a week-long wedge formed, or a little flag. Note that it held right across that level and the moving average and popped. If you're in Tesla and for any reason it reverses 185 is your stop. But at this point, I'm looking at a retest of 217. Then if it gets through, you could see 235.37. It's a very solid look. And keeping that in mind, our traders will be looking at TSLA, TSLL, sorry, the tracking stock 1.5 times ETF, Tesla Direction Tesla Bull. And it broke out Friday, popping $1.09 or 9.3%. And now looking for a test near term, potentially of 14 in that area. We get through that, if Tesla keeps going, this might be 17 and a half, 3/4. Up there is my next target. So pretty impressive there. Lots of stocks to go over. But I do want to do some other ETFs first. These semiconductors. This is leading the market. Just take a look at it. Semiconductors led the market here, let them down. Now leading them up again. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth wave is underway, but it doesn't look like it's going to be done anytime soon. And I would not be shocked to see 285 and 320, if not 340 or more, eventually on a fifth wave run-up blow-off on the SMH. Now the all-time high is 317.18, so that would be a logical target. But we're only at 263 now, so again, if the SMH leads the way, a lot of the semiconductor stocks that we're going to show you today should do very well. Now, what hasn't done well? Well, semiconductor seems to be by itself, at least in terms of leading groups, because at this point, the XBI for biotechs doesn't look ready yet, and it's certainly lagging. But we had a little bounce, a little V bottom with maybe a platform. But if we can get this over Thursday's high, 76 3/4, we might run it to 78.5, or even up to 79 3/4, 80. But for starters, just want to see if they can take out the declining tops line, which they haven't done yet. It's right there. So if we gap up on Monday or extend, biotechs could have a huge week next week. Everything depends on whether it breaks or not. Because net, if this is a long downtrend in biotechs, and we're overbought enough to get this market to back off, then that might be a bear flag as you look at it. And so I'm not ready to say, go with the LABU or the XBI just yet. LABU looks like this. Again, until I see again at least over the moving average, for starters, maybe over 5.25, 528. We get over that level, maybe I'd be interested in a trade that takes us up to, $6.80, $90, $7 up in that zone. All right, and then the financials, obviously not in great shape with the banking crisis, but looks like a reversal pattern, and not far from the low in October either. Almost the exact double bottom, a little lower. Nevertheless, we bounced up, and if we get through here, right where we are, we should test, in my opinion, 61, and we might get up to 64. So if the banks rally, this may come back. So as you can see, the financials and the biotechs just aren't going the way of the semiconductors, are they? So can one group lead the whole market higher? Well, and there's other groups that are strong too, but these are the three leading groups, at least they have been over the last few years. We'll I don't want to belabor the point, but there you go. Maybe a heads up. What about gold and silver? Well, gold is certainly had a recovery. And after this big debacle drop early February, and it was a very promising pattern, and all the way down to November lows and held it twice and then bounced back up. So right now, what we need on GDX, for example, is over 33.35, and targeting 36 and 41 for targets. Looking at NUGT, one of the other ETFs we follow, you can see that a move over 45 and 46 area here could lead to 52 and even 62. More to come. And in terms of silver, well, AGQ, kind of similar. If you get this one above here, you may get it all the way up to 36.5, but currently your resistance is 33.5. So those are your targets going forward for a silver ETF, AGQ. Oil, well, the USO, nice rally back. More so than I thought we'd get, but it is at the moving average, and if it's going to fail, and a lot of individual stocks that I'll show you today in the oil sector have got similar patterns. So is this a rising wedge? It just looks like it might be. It got further than I wanted to, so that's the key. If we break through this declining top line and moving average, that zone right there is big resistance. They could take the USO back up and the UCO and the other ETFs like GUSH as well. GUSH has recovered, but I'm concerned, and what I'm seeing here is nothing more than a rising bear wedge. And should it fail here or in there, in that zone, all we've done is rally back from the bottom of the channel to the top of the channel and maybe rolls over again. I'm just concerned overall about oil. I know a lot of people think it's going higher. I'm still skeptical, and I'll remain that way. And I'll show you some charts that'll kind of verify my thinking. So we got a look at gas. I want to show you KOLD for a reason. After this nice lateral run, we got a hit here, no follow through. We got a hit here, no follow through. Another one here and here, but neither day as we had a follow through. If you get a downside follow through on KOLD, and you can see the trend line here, below say 65. That's where I think KOLD falls pretty rapidly. And that's where oil might start to be more interesting. Now, it was the biggest volume in history on Friday on oil. Oil traded 106 million shares on a day when it was up almost 7%, coming off of historical low. Now, net it still remains in a downtrend. So until that reverses, I can't tell you where it's going. But two of the last 3 days were huge, biggest volumes in history. Two of the biggest volumes in history were Wednesday and Friday. So watch it carefully. Move over like 380 could trigger a move to 4.5, maybe even take it to 5 or 6. But you can't anticipate that bottom. But I will say that Friday was fairly significant with that commodity. We'll see if there is a bigger rally in it, whether oil can take off or not. So we've looked at silver, gold, oil and gas, and we'll leave it right there for now. A lot of stocks to talk about. Let's start with alphabetically with ACLS. This semiconductor stock it's expensive, but I want you to see something. Here's a stock that was trading in the teens 3 years ago. Now 133, it's up tenfold. And yet, when you look at this chart, it's all-time highs and it's consolidating. If semiconductors do what I think they might, this should be $150 stock, if not 180. ACLX, one of my top 20 picks of the year. Obviously, a lot of biotechs have been settling in after a big run. This one's been perking up a little bit, but I need to really get it above this little double top. You get over 35, 5.25, that's where I think you're going to see 40, 45, or 50. But for now, be careful on the downside as well. If biotechs are unready, and if this should roll over under 26, 6.25, that's your stopping point. Is a software stock that, and with the software group really looking good, folks. I looked a lot on Friday was one of the biggest days in a while, and the entire software group lifted. This one has had a long 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way decline, followed by a multi-month base and a breakout and a retest and a wedge and a pop and now flag. So ACVA may be something to look at, and I think it's probably a swing to 16. AEHR, boy, has this gotten whacked twice in the last month. But Friday was ugly. Coming down from 37 to 30, finished at 31.19 at the lower end of the range on huge volume, always makes me concerned. Still above the major trend line, but this is not what I wanted to see in the stock. That was a key breakdown right there. If we get anything, we're gonna, like we did not get a downside follow through, but intraday it rallied. This did not. So I'm concerned about AEHR going forward. Stay tuned. AGYS, look at this chart. Another software application stock that would just undauntedly kept going higher all year. And from the May low in the low 30s, it's gone to near 90, 88 and change. Pulled back recently, but it's moving again. I would watch it above 88. That's where I think you can see 99 and even 115. Really beautiful long-term chart. AI, well, everybody wants this stock. Everybody's in love with AI. Artificial intelligence software stocks. Look at this run. Now, I'm not saying this is going to do this measure move. In terms of points, it's 20 points, 21 points. From here, if you measure that, you're looking at 41. Look where I have a measured move up here. And also lateral price resistance. So let's just say this. If we get a pop above 35 on Monday, it could just keep going. And I wouldn't be surprised in the next 2, 3, 4 days, it's a $40 stock or more. 42 is my target, as believe it or not. I'd love to see a pullback consolidation and remain above that area. So that's the zone I'd like to see support hold. But keep in mind, it's just gone from 20 to 34. So 14 points that fast, you might see a pullback. But if you do, let's see where it holds. If you don't, and it keeps going, you know what to do. ALDX, Aldera Therapeutics, nice pop. Traded up to 10 plus from about 5 in June. I'm sorry, in January. It was trading at 5 3/4. It's gone about 85% move in the last 60 days. Does it look great? You betcha. Now there's a big resistance line here. If you get through it, you might see the stock run into the 12-13 zone. In the semiconductor group, Allegro, check this out. All-time highs. Fantastic move from the October low. This was only under 20, now 48. It's more than doubled. It's got a 1, 2, 3, and 4. It looks like a rising wedge of sorts. Let's call it that. Ascending coil. Nevertheless, any breakout here, and my target, believe it or not, is in the mid to high 50s. AMAM. How about this chart? Explodes, falling wedge for 2 months. Goes vertical, literally from 128 to $13. Now that's a hell of a move. We're talking 10, 12-fold. And now this coil. When the stock goes up that much, that's the best the bears can do. There's a chance you might see it explode into the mid-teens. AMD, well, obviously the long downtrends ended. It broke out with a breakaway gap and came down and formed a beautiful wedge while the moving averages curled up, and it created a new rising channel. For me, now, AMD is likely to do this, especially if the market goes higher. I'm looking for 110 and 120. Apps. Well, obviously, big up move, and this is a big winner for us over the last few years. It then got crushed all the way back from over 100 down to 9. But when it reversed here, I put a swing on it. It's moved up nicely, but not huge and steadily, and the volume isn't great either. But we see the key is going to be, can it get up to this resistance zone? If it does, we're looking at 15. ARCT, big week last week. Explodes Wednesday, pulled back on Thursday, but held. And then Friday was another big day for it, up another 291 or 14%. There is resistance from the November high, comes in at about 24.60. 24.24 was the high on Friday. So a breakthrough that zone, and we're looking at 30.31. ARDX, great looking low price biotech stock, continues to impress. This has gone from 49 cents to 4.94. That's a 10-fold increase, and it's done it since June. 9-month, 10-fold. Can it go further? Momentum can carry this to 6, easy. ARLO, big downtrend. So this one dropped from 11.75 down to 3. Popped up, pulled back, popped up, pulled back from the basement. Here's your breakout. What a breakout day. And a 2-day run up to resistance, and that beautiful flag wedge type pattern. It looks to me like it broke out on Friday and then backed off again. Right there. So, but I think if it has any kind of follow through, watch this one above 615 because you can see 7 and even 8. ARRY, one of my swing picks from back in here when it had inverse head and shoulders and broke out, reached a target and then pulled back for months in coiled, consolidated platforms. This was a good last couple of weeks as it went from 16.25 back up to 22, finishing right at near the high. There is some lateral resistance right there, but any follow through here, this is likely to pop to 24.5 and maybe get up to 27. Solar stock's beginning to look pretty good. This couldn't take off. The ASAN, well, ASAN broke out, put a swing on it, it pulled back on a flag, and Friday it popped $1.10. I like the look of this. Another software application type stock. Get it above 22.5, you might see 26, 29, 30. Assertio, another junior drug biotech type stock with a great looking pattern, everybody. Really nice pattern. It's gone from about 207 back in October Recently spiked up to 7, so 3.5 times. And look at this chart. Up every day last week with good volume. And once you get above 7, we're looking at 8, 9, and maybe 10 or 11. Support at 5.15. Another software stock, ASUR, has been beautiful, and you can see that the rising channel has been a powerful one at a 45-degree angle. Breakaway gap there. That's actually a running gap. The breakaway will be off the base. This is nice. Coil pop at resistance. Keep an eye on this one. Above 1485, I'm looking for 17.5 and 19.5. ATAT, recent IPO, which ran big time from 11 to 29, then backed off. We'll take a look at Friday's action as it popped with increasing volume across that declining topside. Obviously now, we're looking at a retest of the high at 29.5, and then maybe something in the low 30s. AU, one of my favorites in the gold sector. Boy, this is really ramped up, hasn't it? 16.5 to 24.5. That's a beautiful run from the gold stock group. I'm going to say that this might be a long-term channel, something like this. There's also lateral resistance. So my next target is 26 and 28.5. Great chart. EUPH, tech traded swing, broke out, exploded, pulled back, and then popped. We put a swing on it, then back and fill for a while. Now it's surged nicely this week. The last 7 days, up 6 of those days, but the last 3, a nice little mini flagger wedge. My target's 13 and 13.5. Like that chart. BBIO, long base, breakout, fill the gap nearly, test the moving average. There, and then spike up. If we get through this high, my target's 26.5, 3/4. That's a big move, but we got to get through 20 first. The first target is about 19.90.20. Second target, mid-20s. Bellerophon, how about this pop? Breakaway pop, long falling wedge, breakout. There's your breakaway move. And now rising channel to flag. There's some resistance up here. We get to that level, you might be looking at 12 or 13. BMEA exploded last week, coming out of a base pattern to new all-time highs. Last couple of days, the low volume pullback may be setting out some sort of flag. My target's now low to mid-40s if it goes. CBAY, look at this, still junior biotech. From low in the 168 area about May of last year. And then it went up to 4, consolidated for 4 or 5 months. Here's your breakout. Strong run. Retest and make a new high. It just feels like a stock that's going to start to move upward. $10 target. Cardio. Explosive breakaway gap and a sharp run up. And so this go literally from 1 to 880 in about 4 or 5 days. And then, of course, you're going to need to consolidate it, which we're doing here. I just don't want to see it ideally under 350. Got to get over 550. If you see that, you're looking at 8 or 9 or 10. CERT, another biotech stock with rising channel, and then blew through the top to test resistance from the high in August. But it's got a really beautiful bull wedge for me, like it wants to pop out. I'll now target 28.5 or so on the next target. Cocoa, Vita Coco, this is the coconut water company. Nice chart. Big reversal in November. Must have been earnings or something. Platform, breakout, rising channel. My target's 23. Cody, well, we've been talking about this one for months. After broke the base there, it just kept going. Pop flag, pop wedge, pop larger consolidation. Breakthrough with double top. Mid-channel target 13.5, upper channel 15 now. Online tech stock Cisco, Communicate Telecom, breaking out the highest level since last May. If it extends, my target's 57. The other online stock that I'm following right now is Juniper. Take a look at this pop wedge and explosive move. This is also about a 10-month high with a target now in Juniper at 38.5. Carvana. Carvana, after exploding to the declining top sign, pulled back dramatically, but then popped twice. It's going to need to take out, in my opinion, 10.25, 10.75. If you can take that area out, we've completed a little bottoming pattern. And we should retest the declining top line. That comes in around 12.75, followed by 16.5. Duolingo. This expensive stock I wanted to show you because what a beautiful base. Breakaway gap, wedge, and pop. This one looks like it has designs and being much higher. Potentially, maybe at some point, $180, $85 stock. EGO, this junior gold stock, tremendous pattern, targeting 12.25 at the top of that channel. Lateral price resistance from the April high, around 12.5. Swing EHTH, been steadily moving up. Last month it's been consolidating nicely, but 3 times held support. Now it's moving up. Key is 10.5. You get through that at the first target, it's 12.5. Alpha and shelf, well, look at ELF. And not only that, but an engulfing bullish day on Friday. This stock was like headed to 89.90. Well, amazing momentum. It's literally gone from last May around 20 to currently near 84. So, and it looked like it's headed for a 5-fold mover up near 90 or 100. NVX, 3 days in a row sharply higher on a breakaway move with volume. Gets me up to this gap and that low. The only thing left would be a gap fill to about 18 or as much to something in the 18-19 zone, followed by 21. Love to see a pullback retest setup. EOSE, after a long decline, breaks out, wedges, pops again, and retests the trend line, creating a nice solid trend channel. Now looking for a move, get up to 330 and 4 3/4. ENTB, one of my top 20 picks, a great looking biotech stock, continues to push. Made a new high recently at over 18 and backed off to test support. Next target, 19.5, 22. EVGO, double bottom, pop, falling wedge, breakaway gap on Thursday with big volume, and then Friday a nice follow through and breakout. My target 8 3/4 and then 10. EXK junior gold stock, look at the multiple tops here, and it just stuck its head through it. I'm now looking for 4.5 and 5.5. FDMT is one of my top picks of the year. You can see how it exploded December and pulled back in January, February. It's in a slow ascending, orderly pullback, and it's filled that gap here, which I find interesting. If it can pop above, and this is only if and only if I see this above 19, 20, that's where I think you can see it back to 25 or more. Fluence, I like the channel, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the 5th wave started Thursday with a pop and a follow through on Friday. Good buy on both days. It's at resistance here. You get through that 24, 27, and then low 30s would be targets. Fastly, big downtrend, base with multiple tops, broke out and retested. Held the moving average and the 50-day moving average, and they went vertical with a breakaway move right there. Pulled back in a 3-wave corrected flag and then popped again and formed a coil and broke out. Boy, does that look good to me. I think Fastly going to 19.5, 21.5, 23.5. FTNT, security software stock, breakaway gap, flag, and breakout across quadruple top resistance. Next target, 71. GBTC, well, Bitcoin's been moving, and the GBTC really broke out above the moving average. Notice how it crossed over, and then it pulled back and coiled. You consolidated for 2 months. This was the key day breakaway. This was the key test of the moving average. There's another secondary breakout, and now a test of this area in here. Notice there's some gap to fill, which means your target would be 18.5. GFAI, well, with all the artificial intelligence hoopla going around, Friday this exploded from 450 to 10.25, finished 875 up 390. That's an 80% gain on just 3.2 million. So if there's a move above 10.5, 10.25, which would be my Monday target, then I look for 13, 14. Stay tuned. We'll find out whether this has Momo and can extend. Barrick Gold, one of my favorite golds. You can see it's had a nice move up along with AU, but AU by far the strongest right now. Take another look at AU. That's pretty powerful. Anglo Gold Ashanti. But Barrick is a solid one. HEAR, I'm showing you this because remember the big move that this had. Check this out. And we were all over this one. It went from 4 to 38 and changed nearly tenfold. It did it in a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move from the head and shoulder top and broke down and pulled all the way back down here. We're triple bottom in the 6 range. There's also a double, triple, quadruple top here. We're right at $10. This is, we get through this, 12.5 and 15 are my new targets, and I think we may get it. I will put a swing on it if I see it break out. HIMS, nice trend, broke through a double top and just kept going, pulled down. Now it's got a little deep bottom of right hand extension or a cup and handle chart. The cup and handle, if we break out of this above 10, 25, 30, I'm looking for retest of the highs at 12 and then 15. HIMX. Left shoulder, head, right shoulder, inverse head and shoulder breakout and coil, and it seems to be wanting to come out. If it continues, we got a $10 target. Harrow, one of my top 20 picks of the year, exploded in September, pulled back as you break out in December. And then it kept going from the wedge and the breakout again. It's really been wonderful. My extension target is 30 and 33. IDT, check this out. Nice base. Had a big run. You remember the stock went from 6 to 60 some odd tenfold, came down, but didn't come down all the way. It came back down to lateral support there. Now over the last, since June, based out for several months, triple top, breakout, retest, and another breakout and retest. And that looks like it's stair stepping its way higher. I have $38 and $43 targets on IDT. Immersion, or IMMR, broke out Friday big time. After showing you the coil a couple weeks ago that was broken, it went through the top, and now resistance in this area, 9.75 is my next target. IMVT, one of my top picks of the year, big run up, October, November, December, and into January, and then went sideways for a few months. It didn't do well Friday, down 3%, but I'm waiting for this stock to make it over 16.5. If so, 19.5 and low 20s are targets. NDI, nice base for this junior semiconductor. The breakout and the flag pattern has me thinking this is a nice setup for 12.5 and 15.5. INOD, what a nice recovery from the December low when it was 280 to make it back up to 8. Friday it popped 55 cents or 7% to 857. Back up near the high from May. Should it get through 9, I would look for 11. INZY, long downtrend for this biotech stock from 30 down to 1. No kidding. Then it popped. This is what caught my attention. This little wedgie. Then it popped again and pulled back and tested. It popped again and consolidated, holding the trend line and the 50. Broke out last week and just went vertical. Really nice looking chart. A little overbought short term? Yeah. But do I think it can extend? Well, momentum says we're going to $8, but we may pull back first. IONQ, big pop on Friday, jumping 21%. That's $1.07 on a $6 stock. It had previously taken this falling wedge out right there, popped through resistance and just went vertical. There is some lateral resistance here that it took out. Next target will be a test of the gap at 730. And then we're looking at 8.5. IoT, Internet of Things. This is a tech traded swing. It formed a long base after a drop. It made low and retested in November, December. Breakaway gap. Went up to resistance, backed off, creating a new channel. Ran up sharply. A nice falling wedge here and broke out of the wedge. I think it should be testing 25 soon. That's my target. ISCE, big wedge forming. It's awfully choppy, but it had a big move off the September low when it was 9 and change, eventually getting to the mid-20s, but then it took time to consolidate. Tried to pop here, there, and again there, but each time failed. If it gets out this time, I'm looking at 29.5, 33. KOLD Therapeutics explodes, a long decline, popped again, and then it's forming a wedge in here. It's near the apex. Real solid green looking technicals. Has me interested in keeping an eye on this one for a pop out. If it does pop, I can see the stock at 18.5 and 21 short term. KC went ballistic last week. Beautiful chart. Long-term base was broken, and that's what triggered the big move. There is some resistance up here around 8 3/4, but we tagged 944 and broke through that. I'm not saying it's going up there, but there's a possibility we'll see 12 3/4 next. Great chart. LOVE, love sack. Showing you this because of perfect 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave decline, a retest, and then an inverse head and shoulder form, rounding bottom. Keep an eye on this one. LOVE gets above 30, 35. That's where you can run. And my targets would be 36 and 40. Another semiconductor stock on fire is LSCC, all-time highs. And you can see how it's been stepping up 1, 2, and 3. Top of that channel on this one measures as high as 113.15 range. So that would be my target. LVS in its gaming group, Las Vegas broke out of its base, pulled back, and spiked up on Friday. I'm looking for a retest of 61, and then I'm looking for 66. Mara with Bitcoin stock moving. Take a look at the long-term declining chops line that is right near there now. But this V bottom on volume and the run up to resistance and pullback that held, and now this has basically a cup and handle. So I'm looking for a move to 11. MAXN, another solar stock, intriguing me. All the way back here, you see a bunch of resistance in this stock in this area. When it's stuck its head above it and pull back and form the wedge. If it breaks out, we're looking at mid-30s. 30 and 35 are targets for MAXN. MBLY spin off from Intel, ran up in a beautiful 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-way move, and then pull back and consolidate. Now it's wedging. Friday was a good day for it. An engulfing reversal day from 40.50 to 43.77, finished pennies off the high up 202, nearly 5%. 48 and 55 are targets now. NGNX is one of my swing trades. Right now, it looks like a rounding bottom here. This is a 1, 2, 3, and a long 4. The fifth wave could explode to 10, 12, or better. MYGN, look at this inverse head and shoulders. Pop out and wedge and now flag. Very intriguing. With resistance up at 28, that would be my target. NAAS, another inverse head and shoulders with a monster explosive move that went nonstop. 4, 1090. It's overbought, folks. But watch for a better setup over the next week or 2 or 3. NEO. When NEO Genomics breaks out of a base, this is the tech trader swing. I'm not thinking that this channel and this wedge that it's formed in here, if it breaks out, leads to 22 and 25. Nice chart. And then NeoGen, after a long decline, V-bottom platform, notice how it held the moving average, fill that gap, and then ran up. So it's 1, 2, 3, and wave 4 is just developed. Watch this one closely, above 19 area, I'm looking for 21, 23.5 and more. In the NUGT, we showed you in the gold group, but if the golds keep going, 46 and 52 are targets. In the junior semiconductor group, that's Navitas. I believe I have a swing on this one too. It popped and broke out. We put a swing on it back and fill, but it's moved higher now. It's at the highest level since August. My target has to be across this resistance line at 8, 8.25, and we get through that, it's a $10 stock. OCEA, incredibly volatile. Imploded, exploded, imploded, exploded, and now back and filled, and it's got some sort of coil or wedge for me. Do nothing with this stock until you see a pop above 785.8. That's where it takes off. OI, that's OI Glass, formerly Owens, Illinois. I believe it's pop, coil, pop, mini wedge, pop, and then another wedge with a pop that couldn't get through. Backed off to retest the trend line. A moving average held 3 times. Now right back up again with a pop on Friday. My targets are 25.5 and 28. OKTA and a strong software group popped out of a wedge on Friday, and I think this has room to run. Minimum target I have is 94. ONCS, I like what's developing here in terms of an inverse head and shoulders, left shoulder head, and right shoulder with a wedge forming. Unfortunately, there's resistance up here, so we got to get through 3.5, 3/4. Then you're looking at 6 or better. That's my target. ONON exploded. We put a swing on it that day, and it went beautifully vertical from 25.5 to 32 nearly, and now flagging or wedging it here. Momentum is fantastic in the stock. And I believe it's semiconductor stock in the right group. Look at that flag. Look at that base. I have a $40 target eventually. OPRA, how about this little junior software stock? 4 to over 10 and climbing. The next big target for me up here is 13. Oscar, big week last week, breakaway gap on Tuesday, and then held all week and even extended a bit. I have a target now of 8.25. PACB popped on Friday. I love this long-term base and pattern, and you can see where key resistance is. If we can get this one over 12.5, we're looking at 14 and 16 or better. PATH, yet another member of the software infrastructure group, came out of a falling wedge last week with that reversal day, and it popped Friday when the rest of the group went. Resistance at 18, 18.25, we get through it. 20, 22, and 24 targets. PCVX, one of my top 20 picks for the year. It's really hasn't done much like some of them. It continues to consolidate their support. It is in a falling wedge of sorts. So I would look for a pop and break out of this wedge first before doing anything with it. Then it could pop, and if it's out, 42 and 47 targets. PDF Solutions, a software application stock, is running new all-time highs at the top of the long-term channel as well, overbought, but boy, has momentum, doesn't it? Perion, one of my favorite plays in the last 2 years. We picked it at 5.75. It's now 39.75. And in the last couple of years, it continues to go. And this is an impressive move here. I had a $45 target next. I'll stick with that. DPSI popped Thursday, Friday, broke out of first resistance, now at second resistance here. If we can get this one above 360, 4.5 and 5.25 targets. Roblox redeemed itself Friday with a pop of about 4.4%. With the rest of the software electronic multimedia groups, this one should get above 46, and we're not far from that. I think it's looking at 50, 52 zone for starters. RCEL, beautiful base breakout flag, explosive breakaway gap, and now another coil. And Friday, it looks like it might have tried to pop out. Going back here, there's a bunch of resistance in the zone at about 16.5. That would be my next target. RELL has been an uptrend for a couple of years now, and maybe coming out of a wedge. Retest of 27.8, test of low to mid 30s might be in order. Remedy Global, beautiful base breakout here and a run up. Extension targets are 22. Riot along with Mara looking similar. You can see the pop, reversal, platform, pop, breakout, retest, and go. Resistance is right here. Next target is 13. Rambus, look at this long-term chart. Look at the move last week. 43 to 51 and closing at an all-time high. No reason why I can't accelerate. I'll go with 56.7 as your next target. Rio Van is one of my, I believe it's a swing. I know it's also a top 20 pick. It didn't do well here. There was a big volume breakdown, but it held secondary support and bounced. So I'm still high on a longer term picture. And I'm thinking it needs to come up and retest 9 before it can go anywhere. Roku, another stock in the media group and the tech stock that has been very popular. Long downtrend after a big uptrend. And now a long consolidation, almost an inverse head and shoulders. So we need this one above 67.8. Target then is 75.77. Restaurant group, Red Robin. It looked like it was dying back in January when I was trading at 5 and change. It's almost tripled, reaching 14.95. It is near the top of the channel, so it may need to consolidate, but eventually the $17, $18 stock may be at. Silex explodes, pulls back, runs up hard, and forms a long, almost 3-month coil. If it pops this with volume, it could explode. Initial target's 11. SCYX, Synexis, long downtrend, popped and wedged, and exploded with a gap. And Thursday and Friday were awesome. It's right at resistance here. Your next target's 385, and then 5. SE, very similar, broke out of a wedge and is right at the top of the channel, but I see lateral resistance at a target near 93.4. SCRA exploded in February with a breakaway gap and just kept going vertical. Finally settled into a rising channel, but that makes my target now near 5. SGML, if you're looking for a lithium stock, this looks like the best one. However, there's some big volume resistance up here. It's got to get above 39. If it does, you may see low to mid 40s or more. Shopify, looks like a 1, 2, 3, 4, and the fifth wave's underway. It's good. Had a nice little mini breakout Friday. Extension target is now 54 and 60. SLB is the other ETF in the silver group along with AGQ that are looking very good. One more look at AGQ and SLB, they both look the same. Breakaway through that gets you 24 and then 26 as targets. SMSI, look at this chart. It's phenomenal. $9 October, November of 2018. It's a long time ago. But it's 118 this last week. It's pulled back the test. I don't think this is done yet either. 131 and 150. I believe this is an AI play. SOUN, big pop on Friday, took it through the declining top line after a big run up. And a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave decline, and now it's reversed. Or appears to have been. The targets at 345.50 and 4 3/4 5. Spotify, nice rising pattern. Appears to be in a rising channel. The next target is 145 and then 160. SPRB, falling wedge near the apex and their gap. Support, key. Watch it for a pop. It's a low price puppy at 220, but if it goes, you can see 3.5 and 5.5. SQSP coming out of a beautiful base, broke out and retested, formed a little wedge and then ran it sharply. Resistance and target 35.6. SSYS is in play. Nano Dimension trying to acquire them. A couple offers have been made and turned down. I think a white knight's going to step in. We'll see. Or they accept the offer. That offer is over 19. I'm looking for low to mid 20s, maybe high 20s before it's over. SYM, beautiful. Break out of the base, retest twice, ran up to resistance, backed off, stitched up its way higher. And now it's above everything except that spike high from June, which I expect you may see at 28. Low price biotech TBIO broke out last week. Not exceptional volume or technicals, but I like the base and the breakout. Next target is 4.5 3/4. Thread up, I put a swing on. I just like this little low price stock. It broke out of that wedge and then backed off, but it's holding. Key is above 290. This could rip. The 3 3/4 and 5 1/4. TERN, one of my top 20 picks for the year, is trending beautifully. Last week broke out of its 5-week flat consolidation, call it a flag, and ran from about 8.5 to 12. The next target is 14.5 and 16. Technoglass has been on my swing trade list since I think November. It's gone from the mid 20s to the low mid 40s. I'm now looking for 48. TGTX, nice base breakout platform, a big reversal day. Stair step your way all the way up into the 20 zone and pull back. If this is not a bear flag, and it turns out to be a little mini base consolidation, the key is going to be, can we take out Friday's high and this base here? The resistance is 1590, no question. Get it above 16, you may see 1920 range again or more. TMDX, a beautiful rising channel. Friday it popped out of its little coil, holding the trend line. They need to follow through, targets 83 and 90. UMC, inverse head and shoulder breakout. We put a swing on it. It's been working its way slowly but steadily higher. My targets remain 9 and 10. Viking, what a move last week. Breakaway gap, if you're holding what appears to be potentially a trend line, but also held price support in this zone here. And right now it looks like it could be low to mid 20s or a takeover. VRNA, one of the top 20 picks of the year, came off the bottom of the channel. May have had an engulfing reversal bar on Friday. It's at the moving average. Once this gets above 22 3/4, we're looking at 26 cents. WBE, after the long falling wedge, I put a swing on it. This is also a pick of the year. I believe eventually you're going to see 8, 9, 10, 11. Next, came out of a base pop, flag, pop, falling wedge, and then pop the wedge again. It popped again. Really acts like a stock that wants to move higher, $11 target. Zeta, a nice Zeta Global, a really nice rising channel. Extends an extension target is 12 and 13.5. And finally, Zixi, which was a big swing for us right there and worked out well. Broke out, I put another swing on it. I'm a believer the stock goes higher, 13, 14.5, and eventually back to 17 or better. But with that kind of a pattern, if it breaks down, I want you to quickly stop out of it. Now look at a few bucks of shorts, and we'll finish up for the weekend. APA, here's another example of an oil sector stock that broke down, bear flag, and broke down to key support and bounced. Now forming what I think is a rising bear wedge. Technicals don't look very good, but keep a tight stop on it. If it pops, it could be all the way up to 39.40 again. If it doesn't, rollover should get you to 30.5 or much lower if it cracks the bear. BILL also popped Friday and may have come back off of a, look, let's face it, here's a stock that we talked about here, and it's dramatically lower to the point where it looks like it may have come down into a support zone, but it also might be nothing more than a bear flag. I just think in this more bullish environment, we may see it a little bit higher first if it goes lower. CF broke down from a topping pattern and it's consolidating, but it doesn't look very good, folks. None of these agricultural inputs stocks do. I'm not sure why. Sigma Group, this is a short as well. And I saw the head and shoulder top and then it rallied back to resistance. Started to roll over, right about there that I gave you a short, around 299, 300. It made its way down to 250, bouncing a little bit on Friday. Again, if it rallies back to the declining top sign, it may be a candidate for a move to 240. CLFD has been a disaster since its November high. That bear coil told me the story that it was going lower. And another one's forming. So I'm not sure how bad this looks or why, but I'm not kidding when I say there's a possibility we may see low 30s in the stock. Another oil stock that has me doubting the oil group. We'll see. Bear flag, rising bear wedge, another bear wedge. If it rolls over, 84.5 and 79.80 are targets. CPRI broke down from the bear flag. We went short. They dropped from 50 to 40. Bounced back to 47. There's resistance right here. This is a rising bear wedge or bear flag. If it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, we may have a fifth wave down to 37.8. Dillard's. Bear wedge came down to support and bounce, but if it breaks this triple bottoming gap area, 258 and maybe 221. Dyno is another oil stock showing bearish tendencies. Roll over top. 5-way move down, so I can see why it bounces in here. And I don't want to see it above, ideally, 51. But if it fails here, I can see 41, 42 at least. Another stock, Devon Energy, rising wedge to resistance. Where's that resistance? Go look at all the bottoms in here that it broke down through. And then it's kissing back with a bear wedge after a bear flag. I'm skeptical. 44, 36 targets. And yet, another one, EQNR, massive head and shoulder breakdown, snap back to the trend line, moving average, roll over in a 1, 2, 3. This is wave 4 bear wedge, target 24. KEYS broke down hard from the bear coil, but broke out Friday. I would do this. I'm not assuming that you're short yet, but if you are, you want to cover over 166. Targeting 150 and 143.4. NFE, a topping pattern with a rising wedge failed and broke down. Now maybe another one forming here as well. Target 19.5, 20 if it cracks. Overstock's been in a downtrend all year. Look at this chart. For a year and a half, this has gone from 107 to 17. And quite frankly, I don't see a rally, not yet. Next target, 14. PBH had a head and shoulder top, might be, but again, I need to break down here. I need this to be a rising bear wedge, and it needs to fail in that zone and roll over. If it does, 56, 54, and 52 type targets. Plexus, hard down and bear wedge. Then it came down and retested and bounced. Got a large wedge in here. Just don't want to see it break back out again. But you have some leeway, and I wouldn't stop till I got a 102. Targets 90, 86, and way down here at 77 potentially. Retailer raw stores, little mini top pattern, broke down, snapped back and failed, and then rolled down again. Broke the trend line and snapped back to it. I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. Let's call that the trend line. So careful on this one. TCX broke a bear flag last week and came down again. Met my target at 18, 18 and a half, again 18 even. Probably a cover it multiple ways down already. This stock has dropped from like 88, 90 down to 18. TRTN spike down, bear flag, spike down. It's got a bear wedge, and Friday was not a good day for it. In a rising market, this was down on the day. Targets are 59 and way down here in the mid 50s. TTGT, sorry. Mess up top, breakdown, rising bear wedge, and then down, bear flag. Another little wedge in here. Looks like it wants to go lower. Not sure why, but 31 and 28 are targets. Vicor. This bear wedge might have broken out Friday, or it might be just coiling. But the bottom line is it doesn't look great. I got a target at 35 and 31. VIR broke down and is forming a bear flag. Your targets are 20 and 18. Break through that level and you got a big problem. BTLE, finally, that used to be called Laredo Petroleum, and that changed your name to Vital Energy. And quite frankly, it remains a downtrend. Ever since I put a bear swing on it. Rising bear wedge, targeting 37.8 and way down here at 28.9 if it cracks. We'll see. That's it for this weekend, folks. Have a great rest of your weekend, and please study this because a lot of time was put into it. There's a lot of chock full of information in it for you to peruse. And I will talk to you later. Enjoy. Bye, everybody.